Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Lisa with my co host Chris here at Wisdom from the Edge podcast. We're so happy that you have joined us again for another episode, and we're hoping that you're doing well. How are you, viewer, listener? How are you doing today? We are going to talk about something very interesting. Chris and I were just having a conversation before we started this podcast, and I was thinking that having a conversation about forgiveness could be a really great topic. And I am going to read the chapter on forgiveness in this little book called The Greatest Gift: Transformational Alchemy and Divine Illumination by me, Lisa Brazelton. So here it goes. Ready, Chris?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Forgiveness is one of the most important gifts of loving thyself. The action and purpose of forgiveness allows us to forgive others, and forgiving others allows us to forgive ourselves. The gentle guidance of self-forgiveness transforms into self-worth. Forgiveness heals. That is why it's a gift. We are all given this gift of healing. Transcending thoughts and feelings that no longer benefit and choosing forgiveness is the most direct path to the oneness with guidance, with our divine guidance, with our higher self, and with the Creator. Forgiveness does not come through words, but through actions. The breakthrough to forgiveness transcends feelings of upset to a place of neutrality. Forgiveness, at its core, comes with being neutral towards what once brought pain. In this space, all healing can occur. Forgiveness holds a space with compassion. It balances the watered down energies that are prone to surface. It cuts through the armor of a hardened heart and pierces the veil of resistance. Forgiveness requires tremendous courage, for it is only the courageous who can release the pain that arises from deep wounds. Removing emotional blocks that have littered your path is truly the key to surrendering into freedom, knowing that they have been placed in your way to help you gain clarity. The wisdom brought about by our experiences is freedom. It's freedom. By seeking forgiveness in our hearts, we become stronger, and that strength of the act changes all of humanity.
Beautiful. I love that. For those
Thank you.
listening and watching, I've got the same book back at my place in Vancouver, right beside my computer. It's a perfect little square little size. You could just grab it anytime you need a little quick hit of wisdom.
Thank you. Well, this book is very small, but it is pretty packed with, I call them transmissions. They are energetic codes. And I look at this little book as being a timeless piece that's a living library. So, what does that mean? That means that when we evolve, we can go back to the same book and actually get pieces within it that we didn't understand or we didn't quite get. Something else brings our attention to a line or a paragraph or a word. After each one of these 16 competencies or principles, I call them, is a daily mindfulness practice. So I'm going to read that daily mindfulness practice.
Please.
When was the last time you forgave another for causing you pain? When was the last time you looked into the mirror and lovingly said, I forgive myself? No matter what the cause, the conviction, or circumstance, freedom lies in the ability to forgive. Open your heart today and forgive yourself or another. Let go of the residual anger or fear. All wounds are the pathway to deep healing and profound personal power. You have the opportunity to forgive regardless of the circumstance today. So forgiveness allows the Creator to work through you, to become you, and to manifest miracles. So viewer, listener, what is it in your life? And even if you do not even have a conversation with someone who maybe you feel needs to say, I'm sorry to you, is it possible for you to forgive them without those words? I think we can't forgive another if we don't forgive ourselves. And forgiving ourselves is probably one of the oddest, most uncomfortable things. Because before forgiveness can be done within, we have to transcend guilt.
Yeah, and I personally find that challenging. And I'm sure many of you out there listening and watching feel the same way. And at the same time, although it's one of the most challenging things for me personally is to forgive myself and to even before the forgiveness to move through the guilt, self guilt. I have a very strong guilty complex, and when I have done that and I have forgiven, it's so powerful, and it opens up, like you said, Lisa, a whole other world of growth and learning and healing, and that alone is absolutely worth it. It's worth the challenge. So, you can add that to your courage when you're trying to take that next step to forgive maybe yourself or another person, and try these exercises that we just gave you. Just know that it is going to lead you to that path of greater growth, less guilt. I was going to say guilt. Greater growth, less guilt, and just overall um, healing, and that's really, it made me think when you're saying all that, life happens, for us, not to us. So these painful experiences that we've all gone through and likely still continue to, because that's life, and they're happening for us. They're just more opportunities, although they might be masked in something painful and negative, perceivably negative. It is always an opportunity for us to grow, to learn, expand, and heal.
Mm-hmm. So the words that are coming to me right now is, can we be in the world but not of it? And I would also like to point out, because this is something, I don't know if you have heard of wonderful double PhD Dave Hawkins
Oh
is his
yeah, David
last name.
Hawkins. Yeah,
David Hawkins.
yeah.
Um, Profound. He transcended his very last book called Letting Go. He actually just published it, and then he transcended in physical form.
Wow.
But one of his two earlier books, Power versus Force and Eye for an Eye, is the Eye for an Eye is two extraordinary books that were written in the, I think, early 2000s. Um, One of the things that he created was a consciousness quotient scale. And that scale reflected how words transcended into feelings, and those feelings actually had a scale of consciousness in how it can either keep individuals slash humanity down, or it could actually increase in energy, therefore transcend more. I'm going to say more people, but masses. So forgiveness is such a high vibrational act. It is a high vibrational feeling that can cancel out scores of others that we don't even have contact with.
It's
And
also,
I think
sorry, go
it,
ahead.
I think of Jesus. Okay, so Jesus was known for forgiveness, and there is a trilogy there, right? And we can go into this in a different podcast, but the his coming into humanity at the time, he canceled out the masses by way of forgiveness, and he did that through the experience that he chose, which is through sacrifice and through crucifixion. And part of also of that is that that crucifixion was, I believe, I want to get these words right, um, information that is coming through is that the wanting to experience transcendence of life, of death into life. And there are several books that talk about this. And I didn't mean to cut you off there, Chris, but I really feel like if there are a lot of people who believe, um, they believe that Jesus is God. Um, this, the Christianity is the belief of that, and that the ownership of one's expression or action or behavior or words or um, is always going to be forgiven out there versus in here. And I think that this is the antithesis of what Jesus's teachings were about. But be that as it may, he did reset the planet by blanketing the earth with the thread of forgiveness. And we have the ability to learn to be Christ within and do the same. Imagine a world where every day everyone decided to forgive.
You wouldn't see war anymore.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to pull up an image to help with our viewing audience. When we look at the scale of the Hawkins scale of consciousness, it's a really cool thing to look at. So when you look at it and you can see where this emotion of forgiveness on this scale, I'll zoom in so you can see it here. We got forgiveness. And this is high up on this level as we've got shame or humiliation as the bottom, when she kind of has a log of a numerical value beside these different emotions, right? Courage kind of being at the neutral standpoint, the middle here, or neutrality itself. And then it goes up. We've got willingness, which has an emotion of optimism, and the life view of this is hopeful. And we continue to go up, all the way up to love, which is an emotion of reverence, the life view, benign, all the way up to enlightenment, emotion being ineffable, and the life view of isness, essentially. And you kind of look at these, and that's kind of what I feel energetically when I'm in these different states. I feel like the lower ones, anxiety, let's say as a recent one, or even guilt. I've been feeling some of those emotions more recently, and it feels heavy. It feels like something of a lower density, if that makes any sense. Lisa, I don't know how you feel when it comes to these emotions and their scale here, but listener, viewer, please let us know what you feel. Do you feel like these emotions of humiliation, blame, despair, regret, anxiety, do they feel like they're more dense and lower on a scale, if you were to put them on a scale, versus these when you're feeling serenity, bliss, understanding, optimism, trust? what does that feel like? Is it a lighter feeling and a more invigorating feeling in your body? And I just like using this visual. I'm a visual learner, so I just thought I'd pull that up. But
I'm glad you did.
yeah,
I
how
love
does
the fact that you did because when I was in this work back in the early 2000s, I knew that there was something triggering in a very negative way about guilt. And guilt is a learned behavior, audience. Okay. We don't come into this life with guilt, we come in learning about what it is. And we can thank our parents, preachers, teachers, media. We can thank, a lot of, I would consider to be a lot of different religious organizations, especially some of the bigger ones that feed off of guilt. And the fact that guilt is such a low vibratory energy that sucks the life force out of you and then everyone else around you. Because as this that Chris just pulled up, it is the um, exercising this muscle of suffering. And you see in the middle where you've got neutrality, and I would say anywhere between anger and neutrality is the tipping point in order to get up to the willingness. So willingness then and acceptance, that is that forgiveness muscle that gets exercised. And we have the opportunity every single day to decide where we want to fit in life. Where do we want to feel? How do we want to think? And there are so many tools out there in today's world that will help us get out of negative thought loops, to help us get out of anxiety. And yet it is also so difficult. And one of the reasons that it's so difficult is because we are bombarded with negativity, with upset. We are bombarded with media and news and war and destruction and greed. I mean, we see things crumbling. Um, in our own cities, we see people suffering. How can we turn a blind eye to people that are literally within our city walls of Chicago, and you know that there are children who are malnourished on a regular basis? I find that to be absolutely insane and ridiculous, and shame on our world for not being able to do a better job in bringing equality together. That's a whole different rant. I seem to be on a rant today,
Well,
Chris.
it's a beauty of podcasts. It's just making me think too. Like I've always thought about that specific. I live now in Vancouver, which is got one of the worst homelessness problems in all of Canada, and it is substantial. The U.S. of course is just that much bigger, so it's more dramatic down there. But it's actually quite bad in Canada, especially now, especially post COVID, and it makes me disgusted to see the amount of especially these young kids and people in general, and for that matter, old people that the elderly that needs the support who are now on the streets as well. It's just to me, it's the mark of a very primitive civilization that we should ever have even one person in this situation. Because to me, I look at it from like if I was an extraterrestrial looking down on planet Earth, and I saw this species that loved to put on this front of look how sophisticated we are and how high tech we are and how smart we are, yet we're killing each other every day through war, and we are allowing people to go without food, without shelter, without absolute basic survival necessities that I could argue the hunter-gatherer civilizations had a much better situation going, just being hunter-gatherers, living off the land, but knowing how to, and being in tribe, being in community, and being, having a trusting relationship with all the people in your community. I think they had it better off than we do nowadays, to be honest, in a lot of ways. Obviously, certain things we're doing better in, but honestly, I would say as a whole, we've got a long ways to go, because the fact is, if we can have that still happening in 2023 and call ourselves a sophisticated civilization, I think that's just the wrong label. I think as a collective consciousness, this is also part of the growing up. We're growing up right now. And these are the learning pains that we have to go through. And I guess this suffering and this contrast that we see in front of ourselves every day, the positive to take from it is that it's motivating. It's motivating to get change happening and to shift things. And that's, why, like we're saying, these things happen in our reality is so that it provokes a shift and a change within ourselves. So
I
there's my
appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. And I would say that those of you who are regulars, maybe you're here for the first time, and welcome. We're really happy that you're here, but you're a game changer. You're on here because something that we say or things that we say shift you. It's maybe the food that you need for nourishment, but you're also a pioneer. You're a change maker. And so, given that, there are some questions. Chris and I are going to have fun after we have these questions. But listener, viewer, I would really like for you to think about how you respond to yourself within these questions, because the deeper we dive into ourself to be on this journey of self mastery, the greater the expansion for our awareness to actually be the change. So, have you asked yourself questions like, what do I see when I look in the mirror? What is your self reflection talk? We talked about this last week. Are you able to concentrate? What is your level of concentration? If you're not able to concentrate and get quiet, why is that? What stops you from quieting your mind? And these are questions underneath the questions. Studying Chinese medicine for a number of years, you never looked at the symptom. You always looked at the thing behind the thing behind the thing. So it's not, oh, well, I have a lot of work to do and I'm really busy. I've got kids and, I'm trying to balance home life and work life. No, 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 no. Ask yourself, why is the life that you're leading still an okay life if it's not where you want to be? What can you do to put the pause button on? When you meet new people, how do you feel? Are you excited to meet new people or do you feel anxious? How is your trust quotient? Do you regularly trust people or are you one of those people? And again, there's no judgment. These are questions to ask yourself. Are you in a place where you automatically think somebody is up to something no good? Which I tend to think that maybe not be the case with people who are here, but maybe there is a thread that is, you really want somebody to be able to show who they are, or they have to prove themselves in order for you to be comfortable to open yourself up, to open your heart. Why is that? Now, clearly, a lot of this is based on our past experiences, but do you want to see a different life? And if so, how can you be different? Because when you're different, that's where transformation happens. We will see the same thing. We will become the same person tomorrow that we were today and that we were yesterday if we are doing the same thing that we've done. And I think you and I, Chris, were talking about this earlier, is our predictability index here of what our future is going to look like the same, which means that we're going to go backwards if we don't make some major changes today. And the change happens within each one of us. That's where it starts.
That's why I feel like there's that Eleanor Roosevelt, I think, quote that I always think of, do something every day that scares you.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Like do something every day that freaks you out, that scares you, that pushes your boundaries. And I gotta say, this summer for me, I've that's been a good one. Been hopping into a lot of situations where like I don't know what the heck's gonna happen. I don't know who these people are. And you have to go into radical trust mode. And it's a good muscle to start to strengthen, because even when I'm doing it, I'm realizing, wow, yeah, this is pushing me. But why is it pushing me? Is this something that should be so scary, or is that, is this something I need to work on to kind of work in this muscle of trust and open-mindedness, so that these things aren't as scary? Because why do they need to be? It's just the unknown that's probably scaring me more than anything. So, that these questions are wonderful to ask. And on top of those questions, you can ask, like, what have I done today that has pushed myself further ahead in my development? And it doesn't have to be grandiose. It can be, I said some honest things to my parents in a phone call today. Great. Awesome. I'm sure that's always a little freaky when you open up that can of worms. Good for you. Right. Or I asked for more money with my next job, you know, whatever it is, small little things, but those things, they add up. And that's part of the expansion too. So these questions, I mean, I feel like maybe if you have any more of these questions, it'd be great to throw at our audience. I can think of a couple too, because questions
Please.
sometimes are just, you know, the questions are everything. So, I mean, a question you can ask yourself is, what have I done for myself today? I find that's a great question. What have I done today for me? Because a lot of the times that might be the last thing on the list. And if you can remember to ask yourself that, you'd be like, well, nothing. So what am I going to do? I'll make myself a nice dinner, or I'll treat myself to a little movie tonight, or I'll treat myself to a meditation, or whatever the heck it is. You tell me what it is, audience. Let us know what those things that you like to do that just give yourself a little treat, something for you. But those are the questions like that can stimulate a lot, a lot of things. Questions are great to ask.
Yeah, I mean, even questions like, what are your strengths?
Right.
I mean, we can easily probably come up with a list of what are our weaknesses, but do we recognize what our strengths are? And I'm going to go so far as to open up the conversation even more to say, I just read a piece about forgiveness. If we're always thinking about what our weaknesses are, is it possible for us to forgive that about ourselves and make changes? Again, these little shifts every single day. What can we do to push the envelope of our consciousness so that we become the best version of ourselves? And that is not for the faint of heart, and it is not easy. But if we want to see some change in our lives individually, again, like let's see a change in humanity. Let's take that off the table for a second, and say, what can I do to make my life the most incredible it's ever been? You're going to have to take baby steps. And so part of the baby steps that we're going to do for you, and we don't have anything written out for this, is we're going to go A to Z, and we're going to come up with one word. I think we're going to, one, you could do one, I do one. And we're going to create a mindful word of some kind that you can think of that would allow, or that you can use that will allow for you to maybe take that a little further in your life. And maybe some of those words will, you think of a letter, you see a letter, all of a sudden that'll be a word association that will then put you in a higher vibrational state, a state that may be kinder, more loving, more self aware, maybe bring some self regulation in to yourself if you're feeling anxiety. A is anxiety, right? But it doesn't have to be anxiety. It could be the antithesis of anxiety, right? That could be what A stands for. So let's go ahead and do this, Chris.
We'll do our own, and then audience. If I get, like Lisa said, you can do your own version of this. This is the beauty of this. So I'm down. So do you want me to start then with A?
Yes, you start with A.
All right. So the word that came to my mind was actually affirmation. It was for A.
Great.
So that's, yeah, affirmation.
B is becoming
Mm.
light.
C is creation, creating everything, or you are the creator.
D is discernment.
Yeah, Beautiful. So important. E. I'm gonna have to go with energy. Everything is energy. That viewpoint of reality being energy has really helped me a lot. So E is energy.
F is forgiveness.
Have to.
Sorry, that's a have to.
G. Um, well, the word that keeps hitting my head is God. You know, godliness, whatever that means for you, definitely does not have to have a religious connotation. We're talking about the creative source of this entire reality existence that we are all finding ourselves in. Can come down to many different words, and one of them starts with a G.
Um, H. Holding on too tightly.
H-I. Hmm. I like the word identity for the ambiguity of what that really is, because our identity shifts all the time. So it's something that maybe even is an aspect of letting go. You're letting go of identity.
J. Um, I have the word coming through that is justification,
It's good.
justifying your inner lightness, justifying why you're here is important, justifying that you matter.
Yes. A-B-C-H-G-H-I-J-K. K, K, K. Let's see what. I'm gonna have to go with kindness.
Mm.
Kindness is, I've heard that referred to in some indigenous tribes where they're like, love is beautiful, but love is also can make you do some pretty crazy things. What is maybe more important to focus on, even more than love, is kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
Okay. L. I've got like four.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Love, letting go, um, light.
Okay.
These are like really beautiful. And you think about love, and you think about light, and you think about this the lusciousness of how life can be. Um, we all are love underneath the layers. We all are light underneath our layers of physical form.
Yeah, light beings. We absolutely are. And you can feel it, certain people especially really do truly radiate. And you can feel that
Right.
light, even if it's not something that maybe visual, although it even can sometimes come through relatively visually. It's a feeling. It's absolutely a feeling. L M M. I kind of think of mastery.
Love it.
That's a great one. Mastering all of these things we've been talking about on every single episode.
And nature,
Mm, my favorite quick fix.
Mother Nature, MN.
Mm-hmm.
She is somebody who we can always refer back to.
Yeah, as much as possible. MNO. The first thing that comes into my mind is openness, open-mindedness, not being closed, but it's the openness, open to receive love, new ideas, just the openness.
P, pressure. Pressure for a new beginning, the pressure of transformation, of alchemy, of transmutation, of what happens when a caterpillar goes in the chrysalis and pushes out. It's giving birth, pressure.
Pressure. A super quick side tangent. Nature is so amazing at what it physically can show us what we can do non-physically and emotionally. My friend has a tarantula spider, and he showed me the other day, it looked like there were two tarantulas in the cage, but it was actually the previous skin of that same tarantula, and it just moves itself out of its own body into another version of its body. And that old version isn't just like a thin snake skin, it's a full tarantula spider that somehow has like just duplicated itself and then goes out of its shell and then has a whole new body, whole new form of transformation in a matter of one day, I believe. And if that spider can do it, why can't we? Right?
That's amazing.
You know?
And I don't like spiders, but
Yeah.
I do honor spiders. I do my very best never to kill them, ever, ever, ever.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Um,
But yes, it's not just them, of course, right? There's so many examples, snakes and other reptiles,
yeah.
amphibians. But yeah, it's magical, and we can do that. We have that capability for sure. Where were we? So,
Q.
Q. All right. I love the word quintessential. It's
Hmm.
it's just it really means like the things that are the most important, the essential. And sometimes we might think we know what those are, and then those get changed too when life comes knocking. So, what is quintessential for you?
I like quintessential. R. Rejuvenation.
Yeah, that's always a good one.
I mean, like daily.
Yeah, I was about to say daily for me too. PQRS. Okay, I always have to go through half the
It's
alphabet,
okay. It's fine. It's
and I'll do it out loud just so
fine.
our audience gets that entertainment there. What do we said? You said RS. So S. So S for me, there's so many good ones. The first one that came into my head was serenity, just pure serenity, which
I
we can
love that.
feel. I feel so many different times this summer. I felt it, and sometimes because my external situation was so beautiful that I couldn't help but feel that way. But then sometimes it's nothing happening external, and I'm in meditation or I'm just in a beautiful part of the day where I'm just taking a moment to appreciate. But it's all within, and we can feel that so many different ways. Serenity.
T. Well, the easy one for me for a T is transformation, but it's all the T's. It's transfiguration, it's transcendence, it's transformation, it's transmutation.
You. All right. Oh, the word that popped into my head just now was union. And what I feel that could be is union of your masculine and your feminine aspects of your energy, perhaps left brain and right brain, brain heart coherence, union of all these parts of our being.
So let's see, V,
Be.
vision, visualization, vision, being
Hmm.
able to see through what is not necessarily clear, being able to remove the veil so we do have clarity, visualizing through imagination what we want to experience in life.
Yeah, perfect. W, I think. Um, I'm gonna use the word holistic.
Nice.
Holistic, like when you're talking about, what's the traditional Chinese, or Eastern medicine practice. Well, it's a holistic one because they look at everything, and that's the way I like to look at life. It's in a holistic way.
That's great. course, I have like the hardest one right now, Z or X. And then you made me think, I was like, oh, I can probably come up with like a Chinese word.
Although I guess holistic, now that I'm thinking about it, is spelled with an H, right? It's not a WH. Now that I realize,
No, I mean, it's like you could say holism,
but it's whole. The idea of being whole. Well, I'll go back to that.
whole. Go to whole.
We'll go with
Go to
that.
whole. Um,
X.
Everybody always comes up with the same word for X, like xylophone or
Xray.
X-ray. But what do we X-ray really? If we say X-ray, I don't really like the word X-ray because it means, well, it's seeing through. It's being able to see through something. What other is an X?
Yep.
Um, it's being able to, how can we see through like like visualization?
Hmm.
An X-ray is almost like in stealth mode, right? Where you're able
Yeah,
to see things that are underneath the surface. Maybe they're under the ground. They are hidden from our view.
I like that.
Okay.
Great. X. Y.
Why?
Why? That's a really interesting one. I'm not sure what. For some reason, I'm hearing yearning, but that's not something I
It's
want to go
okay.
for. Necessarily a yearning for something, but maybe it's okay to sometimes feel these things like yearning for a different situation, which then is that's the motivation to switch your situation up.
Absolutely. Yearning for everything is part of that. That's part of the perseverance. It's part of hope. When
Mm,
you're yearning for something, you really just want to, bring it to you.
yeah,
So that, I mean, I actually really, I think yearning has this juiciness to it.
I agree.
I don't think it's negative at all. No.
Okay.
Um,
Great.
okay, last one. It's a jelly. Z. Zen.
Yeah, great.
Okay, there
Did
you
it.
have it.
There you have it,
A to
everyone.
Z. Now, viewer, listener, can you do that on your own? Now, I think this would be a phenomenal way to start your meditation practice. Maybe this becomes part of your meditation practice. That every day, maybe you don't do A through Z, but what did that take us? Less than 10 minutes?
Yeah,
And you go through and you create a different word. And of course, we can put words that may have a negative feeling to it. But why? There are so many words in many different languages that we didn't even go into a different language. We could have used a, Chinese word. We could have used a Spanish word. We could have used many different words, but we didn't. But can you make this as a fun exercise for you to create what A through Z looks like as a mindfulness practice for yourself?
great
Right,
idea.
Chris?
Let's try it. I'm gonna try it. So I'll report back to you, audience, next time, and let us know in the comments how have you found this or any of the other ideas that we were suggesting. Of course, we were talking earlier about forgiveness and the questions that you can ask yourself that can lead to some really interesting thought rabbit holes, if you want to call them that, and things that you can ask yourself in the mirror. So let us know how all these have kind of gone. What have you tried? What have you tested? What have you experimented with? Let us know. Because as much as it's great to read about this research and to have all the scientific data, which is great, experience is equally, if not more important, because we would love to hear how does it really actually work for you. So the best way to know is to share. Let us know. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And what can you do for yourself this week about forgiveness? And I am going to challenge you to find a way to forgive something about you this week. And maybe that is you're going to forgive your negative self talk. You're going to forgive some argument that you had, that you said something that you didn't want to say to another person that you care about. Maybe you have a routine that you decide because you're too tired, you couldn't do. So now you're feeling really bad about it. Can you forgive yourself and start anew? What can you do this week, today? Might as well start today to forgive yourself. Let us know how that works for you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Lisa, for sharing all this today. I know I always learn more every time we chat, and today was no exception. I've actually got some good homework now that I'm going to take with me from this episode myself, and we'll report back to you next week. So thank you for sharing all that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, viewer, listener. Namaste.
We'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Wisdom from the Edge. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. And make sure, if you haven't already, to follow, like, and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. It actually helps us out quite a lot in growing this platform. And also leave us a comment if you haven't already. We'd love to hear from you, hear your thoughts about what you enjoyed on this episode and things that you want to offer, maybe ideas for a new episode or things that you want to hear more about. Also, make sure to check out our website, wisdomfromtheedge.org. All that is in the description below. And you can learn more about what we do, what offerings we have, and of course, the courses and programs. There's lots to learn from, a lot of really cool resources to check out to enhance your everyday life. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Wisdom from the Edge.